together today, and I said to Frank, I said, "Well, why don't you pick something you're passionate about, and I'll just follow along." Oh Lord, was that a mistake to ask?
That isn't how that really went.
Oh. So today we're going to talk about, well, we started to talk about this the other day, he and I did, and he admitted that he hijacked the show.
I derailed him.
Derailed, that's a better term. Okay. And what I wanted to talk about was, I don't know why everybody's so excited about the end times. And the thing that made me think of it was I was downtown the other day, and some guy was sitting in the middle of Court Avenue on a box with a long white coat and all dirty and strangly hair and fingernails as long, with a big sign hanging around his neck, "The end is near." And it just anyway, so I walked up and I said, "Excuse me, sir, what tells you that the end is near?" And he just ignored me. He had nothing to say other than to stand there with the sign. That would be like me standing on a street corner saying, "My wife is pregnant, my son died, my house burned down, and I need money." Hello, Gregory. So anyway, I got talking with Frank, and boy, that's no short conversation. So we're going to try to talk about both things today. And I appreciate that you're here on the third anniversary of The View from a Pew, starting on KPOG so many moons ago. And we're glad to be here. All right. So where do you want me to start? I mean, I'm not in control of this show. You are. Even if I started with something, you'd change it.
That's true. No. Well, I would start with Daniel. Daniel's a good place to start. Just give you just a quick overview of his life. Daniel was born somewhere between 623 and 620 BC. He was taken captive by King Nebuchadnezzar in 605 BC. He was one of 50 to 70 young men of royal blood taken captive in one of the three excursions into Judah. And basically, Daniel 1, chapter 1, gives you the brainwashing techniques that was used against these 50 to 70 young men. They were picked because of their particular good looks, their intelligence, their social graces. And Daniel chapter 1 lines up how they were given new names, new religion, new diet, new education, a new language. And the last four holdouts of these guys that hadn't submitted over to the worship of the false gods was Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And so we'll just kind of start with that. And Daniel is given a vision. He's studying Jeremiah's prophecy of the nation of Israel going into, if you want to look this up, Jeremiah 25:12.
Oh, now we're in Jeremiah?
Yeah, just look up J-E-R. You don't have to type the whole thing out. Jeremiah 25:12. And Daniel is looking at this prophecy, or looking at this verse, and asking the Lord basically, "How long, O Lord?"
All right. No valid results found. 2512?
Yeah, make sure you get the two dots, not the dot and the hyphen.
Okay, that was my problem. Then, after the 70 years of captivity are over, I will punish the king of Babylon and his people for their sins, says the Lord. I will make the country of the Babylonians a wasted land forever.
All right. So Daniel has been taken captive. There's a discussion whether Daniel was made a eunuch or not. I think there's evidence that Daniel was not a eunuch, and that would have been it wasn't a castration. It would have been a crushing of the testicles at a young age. Doesn't sound very pleasant either way. But
now that's what I wanted to talk about today.
the king of, or the king of the eunuchs, or I shouldn't say king, but the leader of the eunuchs would have been in charge of the king's harem. And if a eunuch doesn't have testicles, he's less likely to be fooling around with the king's ladies. And so these young men were picked because of their intelligence, their looks, their social graces, to work in the king's house, to work in his temple. And Daniel's one of these kings, or one of these people who is a servant to the king and working for the king. And Daniel ends up having to interpret a dream that King Nebuchadnezzar has. King Nebuchadnezzar has this dream, but the only caveat is he can't remember the dream. Now, wise men and people, if they tell you a dream, might be able to give you interpretation of the dream, but the king is not only asking for an interpretation, he's asking for the actual dream to be revealed to him, because Nebuchadnezzar can't remember the dream. So that's a tall task.
So how, if Nebuchadnezzar cannot relate what the dream was, how is Daniel supposed to know what it was?
Well, basically, the king says, if none of my wise men, none of my soothsayers, none of my magicians can't come up with this dream, off with all your heads. So
Okay.
Daniel steps up and he says, look, give me some time. I'm going to huddle together with my boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We're going to pray to our God, the true God, and we're going to have that God reveal to me your dream so that I can reveal your dream to you, and I will reveal the interpretation of that dream to you. And don't kill anybody, even your false prophets. I'm doing this because I don't want you to kill anybody.
All right, and so they pray that, and Daniel gets a vision, which is the king's vision.
He gets, the God, the true God, Jehovah, reveals to him. Only a God could do this, and this is to try to demonstrate and prove to this false nation that there is one true God who can reveal everything, thoughts, motives, actions, everything to man, and Daniel happens to serve this God, so he wants to prove to this king that he indeed serves the true God. And he's going to demonstrate to this by asking God to reveal this dream to him so that he can reveal it back to the king. And then, of course, this will cause the king to recollect this dream. And this will set the groundwork for Nebuchadnezzar converting to the worship of the true God, Jehovah.
All right, and what I would say that in these days, or those days, there really wasn't any way Daniel could cheat.
No.
The king didn't tell anybody else. The king didn't say anything in his sleep. He didn't put a microphone in. I mean, this is a 100% God speaking to Daniel about the king's vision.
Because the other magicians and soothsayers, Chaldeans and wise men said, hey, you know, we can interpret the dream. Tell us what it is. He said, no, you tell me the dream. And they said, well, that king, that's an impossible duty. Only a God could reveal that. And he's ready to off with the heads of all his wise people until Daniel steps forward. So basically, you know the dream. I think you know the dream. He was, I'll just go over it. He was given a dream of a statue. And there was a head of gold, a chest and arm of silver, a waist of bronze, and 2 legs of iron, and then feet of iron and clay. And so Daniel goes on, and I'm going to just basically, fast forward this a little bit, not get into all the whys and wherefores of this because of time. But the head of gold, Daniel revealed to Nebuchadnezzar, which stoked his feathers immensely. You, king, are the head of gold. But long live the king, but I'm going to have to tell you that there's going to come a kingdom following you. Now, that wasn't going to be good news to Nebuchadnezzar. But Daniel laid out that there would come a kingdom after him, then a kingdom after that, and a kingdom after that. And Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom would be the greatest because it would be the head of gold. Now, that definitely impressed Nebuchadnezzar, because now he's knowing and recollecting the dream that he had, and he's following along with Daniel because he knows this is exactly what he dreamed.
So now Nebuchadnezzar remembers the dream.
Yes.
All right. And so the 12th verse is, then after the 70 years of captivity are over, I will punish the king of Babylon and his people for their sins. All right, so tell me when this is. Then the 70 years of captivity are over.
Well, that's I was looking this up the other day on Google, and there is some discrepancy in when exactly this started and when exactly it finished. But basically, without having all those verses in front of me, because I didn't log all those down, it basically somewhere at the time that Nebuchadnezzar took Israel into captivity, a little bit before or a little bit after 605 BC. And that 70 years would go from that point, I would suggest.
So 70 years of captivity started when?
Around 605
BC.
Around 605 BC.
So that would make it 605 BC.
It would basically take it down to 635 or 535.
535 BC.
Okay, so then it gets down to this part here where there is feet of iron and clay. And iron will not mix with clay. And so you see this sign up here.
This kingdom is not of my world.
Okay, that is important to this because God is revealing to Daniel about 2,500 years of future events. And it lays Daniel out because Daniel don't understand this stuff because it's not yet all been revealed to him. I mean, he's revealing this dream and he's revealing the interpretation, but he doesn't understand all of it himself. So it's kind of putting him in distress because he wants to know when his people is going to be released from this bondage. And so we'll go down here to Daniel 2.
Hold on. Give me a minute here. I'm on Jeremiah. So now we're going to Daniel 2.
Daniel 2, 43 to 40.
Daniel what? 2?
Daniel 2 to 43 to 45.
All right. So 43 says, this mixture of iron and clay also shows that these kingdoms will try to strengthen themselves by forming alliances with each other through intermarriage. But they will not hold together, just as iron and clay do not mix.
Go ahead with 44 and 45, if you have those.
I gotta stretch this out. 44 and 45. I'm sorry, it's not doing what I
Well,
want.
just put Daniel 2 and then put 43 hyphen to 45. 46, actually.
46. All right, sorry you have to listen to this like this, folks. This is just the way it works with Frank. This mixture of iron and clay also shows that these kingdoms will try to strengthen themselves by forming alliances with each other through intermarriages. But they will not hold together, just as iron and clay do not mix. 44. During the reigns of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed or conquered. It will crush all of the kingdoms into nothingness, and it will stand forever. That is the meaning of the rock cut from the mountain, though not by human hands, that crushed to pieces the statue of iron, bronze, clay, silver, and gold. The great God was showing the king what will happen in the future. The dream is true, and its meaning is certain. 46. Then King Nebuchadnezzar threw himself down before Daniel and worshipped him. And he commanded his people to offer sacrifices and burnt sweet incenses before him.
Okay, so what, and later on, the interpretations of this is obviously Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and then the 10 kingdoms that broke up after the fall of the papal Roman Empire, and to which are and I'll give you those 10. This would be the Anglo-Saxons, which became England, Burgundy in Switzerland, Alemanni, Germany, Suave, Portugal, Franks, France, Visigoths, Spain, Lombards, Italy, and then 3 kingdoms didn't survive, which was the Heruli, destroyed in 493 AD, the Vandals in 534 AD, and the Ostrogoths in 538 AD. So what God is saying up here, this kingdom that's eventually going to come after the fall of the pagan papal Roman Empire, those are going to be the last 4 world empires, and to the chagrin of 7 leaders, Charlemagne, Charles V, Louis XIV, Napoleon, Kaiser Wilhelm, Adolf Hitler, and Mussolini, none of these other leaders, and you could even throw in Saddam Hussein, none of these other leaders was ever able to regenerate another world empire over Europe. And there was marriages, arranged marriages between kingdoms, and these failed like the Bible says, and Daniel is revealing to Nebuchadnezzar this dream.
All right, so tell me the chronological numbers here. You just went from 535 BC to 535 AD.
Okay, so the chronological numbers would be this. Babylon's kingdom runs from 605 to 539 BC.
All right.
Medo-Persia runs from 539 to 331 BC.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
539 through 331 BC.
What happened to the years between 535 and 539?
This is going downhill. You know, BC is going downhill to 1.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay, Greece is the next kingdom in line, which runs from 331 to 168 BC.
Okay.
Pagan Rome, which is the Roman Empire that was in power when Christ was alive, started in 168 BC and ran till 476 AD. So it's going from BC to AD. And Jesus was born in about roughly 4 BC, died in 31 AD. So Jesus is alive during this time of this Roman pagan empire. So get this. God is revealing to Daniel, he's going to reveal to him this time frame when Christ is actually going to be born. And that's why this fight with the king of Persia, that's why we'll get into why the king of Persia, the prince of Persia, was withstanding Gabriel by answering the prayer 3 weeks, the question that you and Brian Leach had a number of years ago up at the Merle Mall. Then we have papal Rome that runs from 538 AD.
Whoa, hold on. What happened? Rome ended in 476.
Okay, but understand this. This is the key point to understand. There's 2 legs of iron. This is the longest running. So one leg is what we call pagan Rome. The second leg would be papal Rome. And papal Rome is going to run through what we would commonly refer to the Dark Ages from 538 AD to 1798 AD.
538 to 17 what?
98.
All AD. All right. And that's papal Rome.
Papal Rome. All right. Now
meaning Catholicism.
Catholicism. So let me have you look up a text here. Let's look up Daniel 8:14.
Daniel 8:14. All right. You want me to read it?
Yes.
The other replied, "It will take 2,300 evenings and mornings. Then the temple will be made right again."
All right. So unto 2,000. In the King James Version, it says, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So 2,300 days, if you're just merely going by days, would be roughly, let's see, 365. You're talking about a 7-year period. So most Bible scholars, all Bible scholars, in fact, agree that this is not talking about days, but talking about years. So let's get to 2 verses. I want you to look these up. 2 verses that is going to establish the day-year principle. And these verses are Ezekiel 4:6. Just put EZ 4:6.
46?
No.
4:6.
4:6, and then put a comma after 6. And look up Numbers 14:34. So you'll look up two texts on that.
I can't. Will it let me do that?
Yes. Just put a comma after the number 6.
And then Numbers?
And then Numbers 14:34, and that should look up both verses for you.
All right. You can obviously tell that we didn't prepare this. All right. So we have. I must have done something wrong. Ezekiel 4:6.
Yes. Did you make sure you got the two dots and not the dot hyphen?
Know, but it's not where I want it to be. So you just read it.
All right. Well, do you have Numbers 14:34? All right. Let me get this.
Sorry.
This is establishing, and if you want to, look up Ezekiel 4:6.
Ezekiel,
Ezekiel.
4:6.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Read that. Go ahead and read that one first, and then I'll read Numbers 13:34 next.
All right, 4:6. After you have finished this, lie down again. This time on your right side, and bear the sin of the people of Judah. I have assigned you 40 days, a day for each year. Turn your face towards the siege of Jerusalem, and with bared arm prophesy against her. I will tie you up with ropes so that you cannot turn from one side to the other until you have finished the days of the siege.
All right, Numbers 14:34 says, after the number of days in which ye searched the land, even 40 days for each year shall ye bear your iniquities, even 40 years, and ye shall know the breach of my promise. So I believe this infers, you remember the report of the 12 spies going into Canaan, and they come back and they was going to wander around the desert for 40 years because they gave a false report. The 12 spies, only 2 gave a true report, which was Caleb and Joshua. The other 10 gave a false report. Oh, there's giants in lands. Oh, woe is me. We can't take these giants, these big walls, these big cities. Now remember, God had just parted the Red Sea for them and swallowed up the Egyptians in the Red Sea. So this mighty God, all of a sudden, they believed that they was able to go through this sea on dry bed, and yet God's not going to take care of these giants in the land of Canaan. And so they come back and they give a false report. So these 2 verses is used for the day to year principle, that instead of, and go back and read Daniel 8:14 if you still have it.
I don't have it, so let me go back and get it. 8:14.
8:14.
Okay. All right. He said to me, I will take 2,300 evenings and mornings, then the sanctuary will be reconstructed.
Okay, so as I said,
not constructed, it's it's constructed, created.
Okay, so in the King it says 2,300 days. So we can assert with confidence that this vision that Daniel is receiving of 2,300 days is indeed 2,300 years that Daniel is being given a glimpse into the future. Okay, so now I want you to look up the whole chapter of Daniel 10. Just look up Daniel 10.
Okay, you're losing me a little bit on it.
Okay, well, I've got all this written down that I will share with you.
All right, Daniel 10.
Now, wait. Go to 13, I believe. Just scroll down to 13. No, you don't have to type it in. Just scroll it down.
It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
All right, 10:13. But the prince of the Persian kingdom resisted me 21 days. Then Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me because I was detained there with the king of Persia.
Okay, so Daniel is praying to understand what's going on. The king of Persia has to do something to kick into effect this 2,300-day prophecy. Now, you remember why the Jews were so in love with Donald Trump. Because they thought that Donald Trump done something, and they were equating him with Cyrus, the king of Persia. And it was the idea that for the temple to be rebuilt, to be restored, that Nebuchadnezzar destroyed. He ransacked. He took vessels. The only thing he didn't get was the Ark of the Covenant. That was deposited in a cave that has not yet been found by some of Jeremiah's faithful people. That ark is never yet to be discovered. But he took vessels, he took gold, he burnt the temple, destroyed the temple, Solomon's temple.
And this was the devil.
Well,
the king, the prince of Persia.
The king and prince of Persia can be equated to Cyrus, and it can be equated to Satan. So it's a combination of Satan and Cyrus that is withstanding Gabriel, the head angel, of this prayer that Daniel is looking for an answer to, and he withheld the prayer for 3 solid weeks, which is 21 days. You asked me one time up at the studio, is the number 21 in the Bible? I said, yes, 3 weeks. 21 days was withstood before Michael the prince came to aid Gabriel to make sure that the king of Persia, Cyrus, made the right decision.
Now, wait a minute. You just said that Cyrus and the devil could be the same person.
Well, no, I'm saying that they were combined together. Their efforts were combined together to resist Gabriel's answer to this prayer to Daniel.
How do you get Trump out of that?
Well, the reason I was saying that is you was just saying, and we talked about it when Trump got put in office, the Jews were really in love with Trump because they see Trump as Cyrus the Mede, a figure like Cyrus the Mede. Okay. I'm not saying anything to do with Trump.
All right.
Okay, now I want you to look up Ezra.
Oh, my gosh.
Ezra chapter 1. Just look up the whole chapter. Don't just Ezra 1. Don't put no dots behind it. Just Ezra 1.
Easy
R-A.
Easy R-A. That's it.
1.
Oh, 1. Okay.
And you should be able to scroll the whole chapter.
I don't know where you get the scrolling the whole chapter stuff.
Okay, well, just scroll down and read. Start with verse 1 and read till verse 4, I believe.
In the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah, the Lord moved the heart of Cyrus the king of Persia to make a proclamation throughout his realm and also to put it in writing. This is what Cyrus the king of Persia said. The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of this earth, and he has appointed me to build a temple for him at Jerusalem in Judea. Any of his people among you may go up to Jerusalem in Judea and build the temple of the Lord, and God of Israel, the God of whom is Jerusalem, and may their God be with them. And in any locality where survivors may now be living, the people are to provide them with silver and gold, with goods and livestock, and with free will offerings for the temple of God in Jerusalem.
All right. Now, I want you to put a comma next to the chapter 1 and I want you to put a 6, and I want you to look up Ezra 6. And this is going to be the second decree.
Okay, that didn't work. Ezra 6?
Yeah, just look up Ezra 6.
All right.
The whole chapter, and just start with verse 1, and I'll just tell you when to stop.
King Darius then issued an order, and they searched in the archives stored in the treasury at Babylon. A scroll was found in the citadel and province of Media, and this was written on it.
Okay, well, go to verse 3. We'll just stop at verse
Memorandum.
3.
In the first year of King Cyrus, the king issued a decree concerning the temple of God in Jerusalem. Let the temple be rebuilt as a place to represent sacrifices, and let its foundations be laid. It is to be 60 cubits high and 60 cubits wide, and 3 courses of large stones and 1 of timbers.
Okay, bounce down to verse 5.
Also the gold and silver articles of the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar took from the temple in Jerusalem and brought to Babylon, are to be returned to their places in the temple in Jerusalem. They are to be deposited in this house of God.
Okay, so we can stop there. The first decree was by Cyrus the Mede. The second decree, a number of years later, is made by Darius. And then I want you to look up a final chapter in Ezra, chapter 7, and we're going to read about the third decree. And this is the final decree that is going to set this 2,300-day prophecy in action. Chapter 7, and let me give you the verse. Let's see here. 8 through 13.
8 through 13.
That's Ezra 7, 8 through 13.
Ezra arrived in Jerusalem in the 5th month of the 7th year of the king. He had begun his journey from Babylon on the 1st day of the 1st month, and he arrived in Jerusalem on the 1st day of the 5th month, for the gracious hand of God was on him. For Ezra had devoted himself to the study and observance of the law of the Lord, and to teaching its decrees and laws in Israel. Keep going.
Yeah, go on down to 13.
This is a copy of the letter King
Artaxerxes.
Yeah, what he said, had given to Ezra the priest, a teacher of law, a man learned in matters concerning the commands and decrees of the Lord for Israel.
Artaxerxes.
King of kings, to Ezra the priest, teacher of the law of the God of heaven. Greetings. Now I decree that you of the Israelites in my kingdom, including priests and Levites, who volunteered to go to Jerusalem with you, may go.
Okay, so we have established, and Bible prophets and scholars have established, that this decree, and it tells when Artaxerxes was ruling, this decree went out, and you can write this down if you want, because this is the kickoff. This is the key to understanding the prophecy and the end of times. The decree started in 457 BC, the fall of 457 BC. Is when this third and final decree to restore Jerusalem, give her vessels back, give her gold and silver back, give the temple back, so that Israel can go back to their animal sacrifice system, so that they can have the temple, the holy of holies, and everything that goes on, so that down the road 600 some years later, almost 500 some years later, Jesus Christ can be born. Because if none of this happens, if this temple doesn't get restored and the people rightfully don't go back to the throne of David, the king of David, the house of David, Jesus is not going to be born, and Satan is trying to thwart this effort. So he indeed was sitting on one shoulder, like Tom and Jerry. He indeed was sitting on one shoulder of King Cyrus, and Gabriel was sitting on the other, and they were trying to get Cyrus the Mede to decide which way he's going to make a decision. But this decree has to absolutely go forward, that Michael the archangel comes to the rescue to basically give Cyrus an offer he can't refuse or hard to refuse.
All right. I want to push pause for a second.
Okay.
Can I do that?
Yes, absolutely.
I think this is all fascinating, and I am going to look into it and do a better job of looking into it. But I have to ask. In the Bible, God said, no one will know the day or time that Jesus will return. Well, if he meant that, why does all of these dates and times in the Old Testament lead to the date and time which Jesus will return?
Well,
I don't understand that.
Correctly, the Bible says no man knows the day nor hour. It doesn't say anything about year, but putting that aside, no one knows the day or the hour, but there are signs that's going to lead up and build up to this, but I'm going to put you in a general time frame of God can't return until these set of events happen. And when these set of events happen, anytime past those set of events, you can look for and watch the signs of his soon return, even though no man know the day or the hour. But you have to be personally prepared and personally ready at all times, because if God, the day you die, in essence, God has came for you, and you are sealed either saved or lost at that point. There's no probationary periods after death. So you need to make your decision personally, if you're listening today, whether God comes in your lifetime or not. You need to be prepared today, because you may not see tomorrow. But this is talking about the cataclysmic return of God, where God comes in the clouds of glory, and the cataclysmic end of everything that we've known on this earth. That's the second coming.
So what I hear you saying, and you have to talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old. What I hear you saying, it is day and hour, not date.
Yes.
So when God said that, on one hand, he was giving you a piece of puzzles to a timeline in which Jesus will return.
Yes.
But on the other hand, he's not telling you the day
exactly
or the time.
The exact hour. He's given you a time frame to be looking, but not the exact day or hour.
All right, and what's that time frame?
Okay, that time frame would start after 1798, because this final kingdom, this final empire that is going to rule from Babylon to Medo-Persia to Greece to pagan and papal Rome is going to end in 1798. There's an event that happened in 1798 that earmarked.
Isn't that when they kidnapped the Pope?
That's when they kidnapped the Pope. Well, they didn't kidnap him. Napoleon's general Berthier took him into captivity, Pope Pius VI, and he died out in Valence, Italy, whatever.
Now, did he die from natural causes?
I believe so. I think he just died in captivity.
And who was the Pope when he was gone?
There was no more popes. For all intents and purposes, at that point, Napoleon ended the church with the guillotine. It was called, during the French Revolution in Paris, the blood of the priests. They were chopping heads off of priests, bishops, everyone. Napoleon instituted a godless country, and this godless country would be earmarked by two things. It would demonstrate the atheism of Egypt and the licentiousness of Sodom and Gomorrah. And there is no other nation in the annals and the history of the world that both demonstrates those two characteristics other than the godless French during the French Revolution. They burnt Bibles. They killed church leaders. The blood of the streets of Paris ran thick with the blood of the saints.
Now, I know who. I thought I knew who Napoleon was. Wasn't he the president of France?
Napoleon Bonaparte.
Yeah.
Well, he was the military leader. You know, the little guy with the hand in the
Of France?
Of France. All right, now I need you to look up Daniel, the complete chapter, Daniel 9, because we got to fast forward this a little bit.
Oh, please. Let's just say we're done now.
You got more to learn. Daniel 9.
Daniel 9.
Just 9. Don't put no dots behind it.
I won't put no dots behind it. All right.
Okay, now we're going to scroll down to verse 24 through 27.
24 through 27. Okay, you go ahead and read it.
Okay.
Something wrong.
All right. Well, just try to look it up again because I don't know that I got it.
24 you said?
9:24 to 27. And this is the whole key to understanding the whole time frame.
77s are decreed for your people and your holy city to finish.
Okay. Now, let me stop you there.
Finish transgressions.
Let me stop you there.
Okay.
70 weeks. How many days are in a week?
7.
How many times is 70 times 7?
140.
No.
490.
490. So that's where we get our 490. Anytime you see 490, 49 in the Bible, it all has to do with forgiveness. But he is telling Daniel 70 weeks are determined, 70 weeks are determined upon thy people. Now, who would be Daniel's people?
Goliath's friends.
No, the Jews.
The Jews, okay.
Daniel's people is the Jews. Now notice that it would be Daniel's people, so this prophecy cannot be talking about the Gentiles. This is Daniel's people. So the very first part of this 2,300 years that God is laying out is going to kick off with 70 weeks to be determined upon Daniel's people, the Jews. Go ahead.
When does that 70 weeks start?
457 BC, and this will tell you why.
All right, I'm listening.
Well, go ahead and finish 24, 25, and 25 will tell you.
All right, 77s are decreed for the people and your holy city to finish transgression, to put an end to sin, to atone for wickedness, to bring in everlasting righteousness and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy place.
Okay, now who does this sound like? Who does this sound like describing that someone is going to come and make a reconciliation for iniquity, bring in everlasting righteousness? This can only be describing the coming of Jesus Christ, to be born in a manger. So Daniel is seeing 500 years before Christ is born, he is seeing a prophecy that is foretelling the Son of God coming to this earth to be born. And it all has to start with Cyrus the Mede making this decree. Now start with verse 25.
Know and understand this. From the time the word goes out to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the anointed one, the ruler, comes, there will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. It will be rebuilt with streets and a trench, but in times of trouble. After the 62 sevens, the anointed one will be put to death and will have nothing. The people of the ruler who will come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end will come like a flood. War will continue to the end, and desolations have been decreed. He will confirm a covenant with many for 1 7.
1 week.
In the middle of the 7, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering. And at the temple, he will set up an abomination that causes desolation until the end that is decreed is poured out on him.
Okay, so this is these 1, 2, 3, 4 verses is the whole key to understanding the 2300 prophecy, but the very first 490 years of it is determined on Daniel's people. That starts in 457 BC, and that was the final of the 3 decrees that we read in Ezra. The first one made by Cyrus, the second one made by Darius, however they pronounce his name, and then the third was by King Artaxerxes, and that was the final decree that sent Ezra, Nehemiah back to get the walls rebuilt, get the walls fortified, get the breaches in the walls repaired, get the gates fortified, get permanent housing built in the city because the ones who were there had to travel logistically back and forth too far to get to the temple, get to the city. So you got to get the permanent housing built, the wall repaired, and the gates fortified. And that all has to be done so that the temple services can start and Jesus Christ can come and minister in that temple like he spoke of when he was 12 years old. He came into the temple and spoke, and this was so Solomon's temple was completely destroyed. What sits on it now is the Dome of the Rock, which I assume saw when you was over in Israel.
Yes.
All right. The other temple was Zerubbabel's temple. So it started out in a tent. David planned the building of Solomon's temple. David couldn't complete it. Solomon finished it. Then you've got that temple is destroyed. The Ark of the Covenant's deposited. And they rebuild what they call Zerubbabel's temple. And Zerubbabel's temple became Herod's temple. And Herod's temple was under construction 20 years when Christ come on the scene in 27 AD. It had been under construction for 20 years, and it finished just about the time it was destroyed in 70 AD.
And that all adds up to...
Okay, so let's back up here.
Oh, no, we can't. We only have 8 minutes.
Okay, well, let's just quick here. We're going to back up just a second.
All right.
Verse 25 says, "No one understand from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build the temple, Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks, 62 weeks, and the street shall be built again, the wall even in troublesome times." So there was 49 years that Nehemiah took to construct the wall. So that breaks it up into a 7-week period, a 62-week period, and a 1-week period. Now we know that these are years, so that is 49 years, 62 weeks worth of years, which is 434 years, and then we have the final 1 week, which is a 7-year period. And during the middle of that week, Jesus' ministry starts. You can jot this down just quickly. Jesus' ministry starts in 27 AD. He's crucified in spring of 31 AD. Stephen is stoned in 34 AD. And the gospel officially goes to the Gentiles. That is the final week of the 490-year prophecy, because 490 years, taking into account for the missing year in between 1 BC and 1 AD, will bring you to 26 AD, but include that year is 27 AD. That is the start of Jesus' ministry, his discussion with Nicodemus, the first temple cleansing, and the marriage feast at Cana, that he turned the water to the wine. Those were the 4 things, and his baptism. Those are the 4 things that kicked off. Now, we know exactly when Jesus was baptized. He was baptized in the 15th year of Tiberius. And so we know for a fact that Jesus was baptized in the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar. So these are absolute dates that are written in stone.
Okay.
Okay, so then we've got to get to, we're at 34 AD. This 2,300-year period will take you to 1844. And inside from AD 34 to 1834 or 1844 is an additional 1,810 years. Okay. But there's another little Bible prophecy that is tucked into that period, and it is in Revelation 13:5.
Hold on. Revelation 13:5.
This is why when you study Revelation, you study Daniel is the sister book, and you study these 2 books together.
"The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies, and to exercise its authority for 42 months.
Okay, so 42 months at 30 days a month works out to 1,260 years. A time, dividing of time is the same thing. So 3.5 days, time, dividing of times, 42 months, all are 1,260 years. And so when this 1,260 year part kicked up is in 508, Clovis, the king of France, converted to Catholicism and endorsed the Pope. And the Pope officially took power 538 AD. 1,260 years from 538 AD lands you in 1798, exactly when Napoleon took the Pope into captivity and crushed the church and eliminated Catholicism for a period of time. The beast received a deadly wound, but that deadly wound was healed.
And so what is the year of the recoming of Christ?
Anything, this is the last time prophecy in Bible, so anything past 1798 we would refer to as the end of days. Now I want you to look up, we're going to have to do this really quick, but I want you to look up Daniel 12:4.
Okay, Daniel 12:4.
And I'm going to look up Revelation 10.
Changed on me.
Well, look it up, Daniel 12:4, real quick.
Oh. Daniel 12:4.
Yeah, make sure you get your two little dots in there.
I got it. All right, you're going to have to read it to me because I can't find it.
Okay. Let me get this. Daniel 12. Oh, this computer. All right. Daniel 12:4. Daniel says, "But thou, Daniel," this is Gabriel telling Daniel, "shut up the words, seal the book, even to the end of time." So right here is the end of time. This book is going to be shut up. 1798, 1844 is being told the end of time. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. So God can't come until that happens. Now quickly down to Revelation 10, 8 to 13. And the voice said, which I heard from heaven, spake unto John the Revelator, Go take the little book which is open in the hand of the angel which stands upon the sea of the earth. And I went to the angel and said to him, Give me the little book. This is the same little book that Gabriel told Daniel to shut up. And he said, Take it, eat it. It'll be bitter in your belly, but it will be sweet in your mouth as honey. And I took the little book out of the angel's hand, ate it. It was in my mouth, sweet as honey, and it become bitter in my belly. And then it goes on, and he said unto me, Thou must prophesy again. So this is exactly talking about what we call the Great Disappointment, the Millerite movement, the Great Disappointment when everybody thought the Lord was going to come in 1844, and he did not come. This is exactly prophesizing that event. So anything past 1844, God can show up anytime we prepare for him and pray for the latter rain to refresh this earth like the early rain, the latter rain. Come, Lord, come now.
Whew. I feel I've just been through calculus. All right. Well, we're out of time, and I hope you understood everything that was being said. I'm going to listen to this program over and over and over and over 70 times 7 until I can figure out what Frank is talking about. Wear me out. All right. I'm J. Michael McCoy, if I haven't told you lately. Thanks for listening. Love this job, and I couldn't do it without you. Right here on 102.9 KPOG and webcast1live.com.